All right, guys, this is the moment you guys have been waiting for. I'm laughing because I just feel like you should just widescreen the camera now because I'm literally weak off of Suburban. He's here, clearly has made himself at home, which we absolutely love. Within seconds, he's at home.
Rolling Stone.
And we're excited to have him. And you guys are hype in the chat. You guys have been like, I'm only here for him. So listen, we're giving the people what they want. He's here to chat with us about his new album, Hive, and to give us a preview of it. So chat, show him some love. Not that I have to tell you that, but show him some love in the chat.
Spam wine glass emojis.
Yes, do it. It's perfect for the weekend. Wine glass emojis only around these parts. Listen, we're so excited to have you here today. And I know you were just talking about your free days not being free, but we're glad you're spending it with us. A little bit of time with us. So listen, when a lot of people, when they think of you, their mind immediately goes to Cradles because it's a fucking bop. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade.
I peaked already. It's all downhill from there. That was my first song.
That's not true, but it's a bop. People think of that. People go to that viral song. After that dropped, did you ever think to yourself, where do I go next? Like, was there pressure to like perform after that?
I mean, like, I made that song when I was 17. I'm 22 now. And back then I was doing like, before pop punk got like regressively industrialized, I was just doing a ton of pop punk stuff. Like back from 2016, I thought it was gonna be huge, and it ended up Travis Barker just choke held it. But I had like intentions to do like a lot more emo stuff. Like I was spreading my seed amongst different genres, and I was really trying to figure out like what to do after Cradles. But I basically did everything besides do things like Cradles. So I kind of like screwed myself, especially with like COVID. But like I had a lot of songs from that sort of 17-year-old angsty era where it was just like clown, circus, freak, whatever. And I just thought like, wow, there's a really interesting sonic to these textures that I'm abusing, like, and obviously the drops that I maintained from like my past of producing like EDM stuff. I didn't really figure out where to go next until this album, to be honest with you. I was very lost with like work block, writer's block. And after dropping my song Freak and I started working with Bella Porch, I basically tried to make a Cradles 2 with Build a Bitch, like with that drop. Yeah. I was very pleased to see how people took to it. It was like people were hungry for that sort of music box, bell, mallet sound with the fat like sub stuff. So I just like kind of have been learning a lot from working on her project, developing her upcoming debut, and like melodically taking a lot of cues from like what is catchy, what is like psychologically appealing to not even the masses. Like it's almost like a Venn diagram of what I find intriguing versus the audience as a whole, and trying to find that like sweet spot so I don't hate myself when I release something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, do you feel like that is your comfort zone? Because you talk about kind of using Cradles as a little bit of a North Star, like kind of moving back to that North Star. Do you feel like that's like your comfort zone and like that's the sound that you want to continue to pursue? I
mean, with this project, like there's callbacks, like if people have listened already, Rabbit Hole is like to me a callback because of that fat sub, those music box bells, and even the like distorted kind of guitar piano leads that I'm using. The melodies, it really comes down to the melodies. A lot of people like equate it to like Danny Elfman or Tim Burton style like music, but sure. I like explored a lot more in different directions that people kind of probably didn't expect too much from me, which was like I developed a lot more of like a Latin leaning classical guitar sound, and then took cues from like funk and like Memphis rap stuff, and then like in the middle just tried to distribute like an electronic sound that I felt like I didn't really indulge. I didn't really like capitalize on right away, but it took COVID and like 2 years of just like realizing like, wow, how do I not be cringe but still like make kind of furry core music? It's just been pretty fun to basically create this feeling of mania, or like kind of capture it in a bottle, and from this whole crazy roller coaster that I've experienced the past few years, and just try to personify it in this project. And it feels cohesive to me. I'm really, really fucking proud of it. Hive, out now, everywhere, just came out. This is my first album.
Yeah, so exciting. What does that feel like? I feel like as a 22-year-old, there are so many people at your age who are so worried about fitting in, but like you have kind of owned the exact opposite of that, and you stand in that truth, and you do it so like almost effortlessly. How'd you get to that point?
Alienation. I was a dumpster child as I had a lot of I mean it's all always started from like trying to compensate for something, like this feeling of agitation almost towards I guess like not even mainstream, just hearing things done and consumed by a mainstream culture and thinking, why are they doing this when it could be done this way? And then that sort of feeling kind of develops into, I want to make music that I feel like I haven't heard personally, and if I've heard it, I feel like I could do better than that in terms of production. And it is a niche to what I'm doing, but like it began that way, just making music that I wanted to hear, and then eventually it became more of like a capturing a certain style, which I feel like, you know, I do take it for granted, but I am kind of young. I mean, like we got fucking way younger people out here just blowing up out of nowhere, but I will say like confidently, like I'm producing my own shit. Like no one has that on me.
Yeah.
And I am again just like interested in seeing where I go from this point, because I want to take a lot more creative risks. I feel like this album took creative risks, but in a way that felt like punchliney, like the prior stuff that would keep people captivated quickly. You know, it kind of appeals to that ADHD culture where it's like quick switches, but also just trying to learn how to invite more melody.
Love that. Love that. So a lot of the themes in your music are darker. They're pretty deep. You talk about addiction, anxiety, a lot of things that are very well relatable to people, but talk about how you're able to, like, I guess, confidently talk about those things that maybe other people might want to stray a little bit away from.
I mean, it's just a matter of, like, some people want to feel good and some people want to feel like they know that someone else is going through something that they're going through. And I'll confidently say I'm not making this music for anybody but myself. But I will say that it's very nice to have fans come along for the ride. Because obviously it feels good to see people indulge in my work and like see that pay off. But yeah, it is that feeling of alienation. It's like almost that relatability like discounts the feeling that I'm writing about. But it is ironic because it is a relatable feeling for a lot of people. And I think that if the talking about addiction, if the talking about like money circumstance and like overall loneliness, like it's very freeing. It's to put myself in that vulnerable position, because honestly a lot of it stems from just like the pressure on men to not be able to talk about their as a kid, like to not talk about like your feelings. That's what forces a lot of musicians to do what they do, to force it into an art form that other people can capitalize off of. But it's been quite a journey to just say things that I feel like I'm not allowed to say in song form, and just see how people interpret it completely incorrectly.
I love that so much. And I love that you talked about just doing this for yourself. You know, it's interesting because you had mentioned right before this, like there's so many people who are younger who have blown up. And I think oftentimes people see people like you and they're like, they came out of nowhere. But like, obviously you had been working for years prior to the blow up. So what was life like prior to that? And like, talk a little bit about your musical background, like things that we would not know.
I mean, I've talked about a lot of this stuff quite a few times for some of the fans out there who are familiar, but when I was younger, my mom put me into like piano lessons. I have a Taiwanese mom. There's like, for some reason, Asian culture is very, very like almost forceful in children to like learn an instrument. But don't become a musician. That's bad. But learn an instrument. It's good for the brain development. But don't become a musician. You won't make money. So as a 6-year-old, I like started learning the piano, like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and eventually I was on to Beethoven and all that shit. And I realized like, yeah, I was subconsciously like involving myself with melody and stuff, but I was so bored of playing like these old ass composers' songs. I wanted to make my own, and I thought I was fully capable of it. But I was more so interested than the melody. I was more so interested in how the hell do they make radio music? As an 8-year-old, I was like, how do they make the beeps and boops? Is it just pressing a button? Because when dubstep went around, I was one of those like really dumb out crowds where they were like, they're just pressing buttons and turning on. That's literally all music has ever been since the 60s, since the 50s. No, honestly, since ragtime. It's been it was like this slow, sturdy climb until I realized like I kind of hated music as a kid. I like did not like hearing people sing. I thought there's something weirdly imperfect about adding song to instrumental, and I thought like this has been a consistent thought even as a singer-songwriter, that lyrics are the clunkiest version of sonic. It's like of expression, because you have like this pure sound that is instrumentalizing thoughts and emotions. It's like there is no need for language, and then suddenly you have some dude just talking about like his problems on top of that, and it's like, but that's the human part of it. That's the psychological part that we don't recognize as a very subconscious thing to our species. That, I mean, the fact that music even exists, it's like a whole crazy glitch in evolution. But like, I didn't come around to the idea of lyrics until I was like a teenager, when I was going through angst. But as a kid, I was just trying to figure out how to make the beeps and boops. And then around comes dubstep, house music, all these DJs on their laptops. I was like, I want to become a DJ or a Minecraft YouTuber.
Or both.
Fucking, oh my God, I can't believe that was actually a thought that ran through my 12-year-old mind. And that dream continued for a bit until I realized, like, wow, nobody is making like dark music. This was during the age of like crazy future bass, like Katy Perry, like all that stuff to 2014, 2016 was probably the worst time in music, I'd say, on an industrial stamp, consumable stem. Because, when I came up with it, I was just thinking, I'm like sticking to this like red, white, gold, black color palette, and still it holds true for the album cover. For like, I like those colors for the sound, but there needed to be more color at some point, and especially with like all these mid-century themes, I just thought that it perfectly works with that whimsicalness that this project really delivered. Yeah. And there's a lot more to come of it. So long as a song has a moment, I'm there ready to make a music video for it, but otherwise I will not have a budget. This stuff is expensive to make it.
I imagine. Can you kind of walk us through the process as far as like songwriting goes for this particular song?
That song was like written in like I mean, the verse was not written in a matter of hours, but the hook was very, very quick. It was I work with only like 2 co-producers. I've only ever done like sessions the first month I went to LA when like Cradles blew up, and like I had first gone management, signed to a label, and they were like, we need to make a bunch of things, and ironically like only like one of those things ended up making it to the album. I mean, there's a few like additional production, but it's just like always scrapped a lot of it because it just wasn't good enough. So a lot of it was birthed of an initial idea being like added onto, but this was one of the ones where it like started with my co-producer. His name is Ely Risk. Shout out. He is incredibly talented. He was playing just a general loop that felt, very like raggy and interesting. Like it had like this comical feeling to it. And I hadn't really felt like I had heard a song like that. It almost felt like a spaghetti western sort of feeling. and I just wanted to do something like, honestly, this was one of the more commercial songs on the album. I really was trying to think like, punchline. How do I make like a moment for this? And I've done it before with the hush, like, but this one was just, I was looking at him like just making fun of like, what if we said duh? What if we said what if I just said hush again? Like, what is the pre-phrase? What is, like, obviously making fun of all music that sounds like that, but I just realized like, there hasn't been a song as of recent that has said uh-oh, and I was just like, that feeling of like threat, imminent threat,
right,
which even the video carries out. I thought, this is a funny song. I might as well do that, because there's a chance that those fucking TikTok kids are gonna love it. But besides that, it was more so just for the comedy aspect of it. I really liked that. And yeah, the voice actually saying "uh-oh" is me, not Benny, not anyone else. No, it was just me pitching it up like 2 and doing like "uh-oh," like. And I thought it turned out really well. It sounded like a recording from the 50s in a really twisted commercial way. It was a cool song. Had its moments. Was there another part to that question? I kind of blanked for a second. I love rambling.
I love
rambling.
I had a little bit of a question about, so I know in the video you kind of had like the Virgil's Chronicle, and obviously like tap into your name all the time, but like, I'm kind of curious about like alter egos, because of course we have Suburban, but then you always talk about Virgil. Do you kind of feel like this is the same person? Like in your mind, is this the same person? Are these like 2 different characters?
It's just like a fun personification of like the dark meat of my music. It's if you want to call it an alter ego, it's whatever, but it's I don't want to get corny to the point where it's like I'm flippant. I'm 2 different people maybe. It's just my middle name, and I always thought it was very interesting, especially when I created the video like concept for Inferno with Bella, and like worked upon like the story with her. Like that whole hotel, if people hadn't figured it out by now, is pretty obvious, but the like 9 circles of hell being like Dante's Inferno, and then the guide bringing him through hell was Virgil. His name was Virgil, and I named the hotel Virgil, and immediately everyone was like, Bella Porch's Virgil. I was just like, I'm flipping the switches. But it wasn't even about that. It was just a matter of like, people do connect more with a name, and I always felt like that was a very unique name that I didn't really, as a kid, I used to be embarrassed of it, because I was like in 6th grade, I was like, they're going to call me a virgin. But now I like recognize the art, and I don't know, just even the enunciation of it. So I thought it was a cool aesthetic to bring to the table. And I had teased the name for Virgil's Mania with the tour with Bella that unfortunately got canceled, because we said it was COVID, but I didn't finish any of her songs. I was very behind.
That's pretty
She would have
hilarious.
just been singing Build a Bitch like 5 times in a row with how much we had done. But now we have a good collection going.
Honestly,
Same with my songs. I wasn't like halfway done with Hive by then, and all the songs were like just like the verse and the first verse and the hook. I was like, guys, I have an album. Just like give me like 7 more months.
It's the honesty
8
for
more
me.
months.
Okay, let's get into Candyman. Let's take a listen to that and watch that up next. Okay. Pat, can you press play?
This is barely a music video. This is a visualizer. And everyone thought I was dropping a music video because colors are kind of quality.
They are.
But just obviously an ode to Willy Wonka. The song was originally going to be called Willy Wonka. I thought it would have been way fucking cooler to just literally call it that, but we had mans at the label who felt that it was a little risky, especially with the upcoming film. I just like always saw comments on like everything I did, like
He reminds me of Willy Wonka.
Tim, you look like a Tim Burton character. It's just,
See,
why
just
not
played
play
into
into
it,
just
yep.
play into the character? I also felt like this song was the most whimsical next to Uh-Oh
Yes,
and Diamond, that like really delivered that fun like feeling without going so nihilistic as to feel hopeless. It was just like it was, the lyrics are hopeless, but the sound is so colorful that
Yes.
it's funny. So I wanted to make a funny video. Just, shock value. And again with the wig. I love wigs right now. And the blue eyes.
So some of the lyrics you say, chase the bag, then dig your hole, realize there's no miracle, just luck and sex and made up goals. I make more, but I'm a poor soul, which is hilarious. I mean, there's so much to laugh at in here. What's the part that I'm looking for? Let's eat the rich. Let's eat the rich. I love that. I'm just like curious,
Jean-Jacques. Yeah.
Right. I'm curious about like how your mind works in these moments. And when you're writing, are you writing like on the go, or are you kind of like in a room, focused, grinding?
Always taking a shit on a toilet. Every single word you've ever heard has been from me sitting on a toilet, pushing out.
That's when the best ideas come.
Honestly, most of my lyrics, lyrics that I'm really proud of on this album are song Diamond. This one, these lyrics came out at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m.
On the
like
shitter.
without sleeping, like just having been up for like 19 hours. Is just, for some reason, pushes your mind into a weird survival mode that you can abuse on meaningless things like language. Okay. That's exactly what I did. I just whatever feels the most natural is the next lyric. Oddly, is like the best. And when I overthink, sometimes it hurts it. But sometimes, like, yeah, this song came out really naturally. I was just like, I had a message that I wanted to deliver that may be unclear to some people. It's not even political at this point. It's just talking about the extremities of like of money and how it tears apart someone's mind from the get-go of being born. It's human nature in this like unnatural box of, but I mean, nature is whatever is. So I had fun with that one. I had fun with talking from the standpoint of a rich, affluent man who has absolutely no empathy for the lowers.
Oh my God.
The neurotypicals. And it's like not like, it's funny because I'm like appealing to a pretty liberal audience that I have, but at the same time, yeah, there is some truth in saying, yeah, I make more. I make it just from music itself, as much as like its success has come from like things. It's like, it's almost having like building that character out of my own rottenness and personifying it into a song, and then realizing, yeah, I do have an incredibly unhealthy capitalistic drive. I will absolutely fuck you over if you ever become friends with no.
Listen, he's warned you.
I'm a terrible, terrible snake of a person. Awful. But I have empathy. I know, I understand that there are levels to every single person's consciousness and levels to every single point of society, and not to get too deep with it, but this song is just kind of taking it all into account and spitting it out as, well, if there was no trade involved, if our population was smaller, it would be a dog eat dog world, even more so than it already is, without the availability of, I guess, mass war and extinction, whatever the fuck. But it's just like funny to like sum it up as funny.
Well, it's interesting because you make a reference of your mom saying like, hate the rich when you're poor.
Yeah, that's something that I feel like a lot of people, especially when their father isn't like very successful, like before like a climb of success, there's always like this initial jealousy of everyone around you. Everyone has it, and no one wants to admit it. But there's body shame from both ends. There's capital shame from both ends. There's always going to be some sort of feeling of disgust towards peers up and below. And no one will ever like admit the morality of it, but I know that it's an animalistic feeling. And that's something that mothers project on their small ones right from birth, like until someone in the family becomes successful and they're all kissing ass. And that's not even a reference to anybody in particular. It's just a matter of like truth for anybody.
Has mom heard this track, or what are her thoughts on your music now? Because I know earlier you were talking about her wanting you to learn an instrument, but not necessarily become a musician.
Oh, I even forgot to say back when we were talking about that. Yeah, it led to me digitally producing. I dropped out of school in 10th grade. She was incredibly disappointed. My dad was so probably worried, but I was really lucky. My dad had me when he was really older, 50. And they, my mom comes from this like culture where it's like you're a failure if you don't finish school. So, there was a lot of like initial like, why are you doing this? I was dropping out illegally too. Like I was really forcing like that. My mom wanted to send me to military camp, like probably like just to ensure that I was getting something. But like, I think my dad recognized like, being in school made me want to fucking kill myself because I realized like what I wanted from a very early age. It's just that adults don't really know what that looks like until I start making like very precise plays, but that takes development and that takes faith in one's practice. So initially, yeah, they were like confused, scared, but like my mom wanted me to go back to school. My dad was like, do whatever the fuck you want. I recognize that the most important thing in life is to do what makes you happy. Because that's really, really important. Like a lot of young parents aren't going to recognize that until they're older and realize that they've wasted their lives. But I turned them all around. My mom and dad, as soon as Cradle started going, like everyone, and just realized like, oh, okay, this is like not just like a living. This is a lot of fucking people on this planet have heard that song, and so unexpected too, because it's just like such a dissonant sound. Like I was like hoping like when I was younger, like the most I'd seen was like 1 million plays. So it was like, oh, I hope this goes viral and gets 10 million.
Yeah.
And then suddenly fucking like 1 billion streams across. Like that's not like those are people, but I can't fathom it. So it's just numbers at a certain point. So I think my mom was always a little confused by the concepts I was going for. Like she didn't like the dark writing. My dad recognized that it was angst fueled, but he had a large like discography of music that he had listened to. Being born in 1950, he had lived through the British invasion, psychedelic, prog rock, and it was just like I was exposed to a lot of that as a kid, but I kind of always hated it. But it's funny because this album does kind of come back to those mid-century, full circle. So I think it's just interesting to see them look at like this current record and be like, this is your best body of work. This is like, wow. Like my dad even like, obviously he's biased, but he's like top 5 albums I've ever like listened to. I was just like, Jesus. Yeah. No, I mean, you love the Beatles, you love the Stones and Genesis, Procol Harum, like all these different, but it's like, I don't know, to be able to do that in modern day is significant to me.
For sure. You're definitely a vibe. Let's play Bandit so we can sneak that in before we have to let you go.
Video for Bandit coming out Monday. I hope. Yes, it is. It's absolutely coming out Monday. That's what I have to edit after this. Yeah.
Oh my God, busy.
But this song is, I'd say, the best song on the album. Not my favorite one, but it is, I think, the catchiest.
I need to move. Sick to me. Dogs on the loose. Zionist. My brain's been bruised. I can't see. The sense tell me to turn back and hesitate to.
People are saying yes. My favorite song, Bandit, is amazing. Fun.
I wrote this as a 19-year-old. This was, I think, the second earliest song on this album that made the cut. Diamond was the first, but that one went through so many iterations. This one stayed true since the moment I wrote it in the shower on the shitter. This is one of those where I felt like the lyrics, like hands down, like I felt like I conducted. There's this weird feeling when you get into like a flow state for music is when the lyrics, you don't have to think about them and it just comes. This is one of those songs.
Really?
Yeah, it was very easy to write. Just very basic concept, being cornered in the desert.
People are talking about the concert in Boston being so good. I loved it. I love every song on the album. I can't choose a favorite. Krispy Kreme is saying.
This one goes out to my Bostonians out there.
Bostonians.
Yeah, this song.
There's that like Latin sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the classical guitars all over this album. I'm really glad I indulged in that texture because it's just so fascinating to hear that in with these types of melodies that you'd associate with like the baroqueness, but yeah, there is a Latin element to it, which is very interesting.
So people were talking about, before you got on, they were talking about being at one of your shows and you were like selling your own merch and taking pictures with fans.
I've been doing that like every single show. There's only been like 2 shows where I actually like passed out after the show, so I couldn't be at the merch stand. But yeah, this entire tour with Aurora, I've had a lot of fun meeting fans. Like sometimes they're a little scary, but sometimes they're like just the conversation is like so interesting because like beyond admiration, it's just like peering into the soul of like who is indulging in the music that I'm making out of these moments of vulnerability, and that it comes back to that relatability that you talked about earlier. It's just fun to like just to see like, because I've been stuck digitally this whole time. I've been seeing again this like disconnect of numbers, and I think every artist goes through that phase of like going on tour and realizing, oh, these are people.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've definitely had a lot of fun just signing things and talking. Like the conversation is always wacky from one like city to the next. Like you have some very interesting people at these concerts, especially with Aurora's fan base too. They are quite interesting.
I know you guys are still on tour. You're doing Summer Stage, right? Tomorrow with Aurora?
Yeah, Central Park.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fun one.
Super exciting. Well,
New York.
I know, New York.
Yeah.
They're so
I love
excited
this
to
city.
have you. And listen, we're so excited to have you on the show. Honestly, I want to talk to you more. Like, this was such a fun conversation. And like your mind, I love your mind. It just is incredible. You're incredibly creative.
Thank you.
Excited to see what's to come in the future. But I know we got to get you out of here. But your fans love you in the chat, and we're so glad that you
I love
came
you
in.
all too. Especially you, specifically you, right there in particular. You know who I'm talking to.
Oh my God, Suburban, thank you so much. Chat, give it up, drop your wine glasses. We're going to go to an ad.
Drop those wine glasses.
And after that, we're going to do